February 14th, 1943. Dawn over the pale blue waters north of Guadalcanal. The sun has not yet lifted above the horizon, but its first narrow blade of light cuts across the Pacific and touches the rising humidity. The sea glows faintly, a shifting mirror of silver and violet. Far above it, at 12,000 feet, a lone aircraft slices through the layered morning haze, an F4U Corsair, its distinctive inverted gull wings catching the first hints of sunlight. Inside the cockpit, Lieutenant James "Red" Harriman of VMF 124 tightens his gloved hand around the control stick. The airframe vibrates, low, powerful, confident. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine responds like a living beast beneath him. At full power, it emits a guttural roar unlike any fighter he has flown before. He can feel the torque climbing up through the airframe and into his bones. But the Corsair's beauty is lost on many. On the ground, men scoffed at its strange bent wings, its long snout, its stubborn landing behavior. Even the Japanese pilots, veterans of China and Pearl Harbor, mocked it in intercepted intelligence chatter. They called it the bent-winged bird. They called it slow to climb, too heavy, too complex. They said it would never match the Zero in a turning fight. That mockery lingers in Harriman's mind this morning. As he levels off on patrol, he breathes slowly, calming himself. The Pacific is wide, the sky even wider. Somewhere ahead, the enemy is hunting. He scans to his left. 3 more Corsairs fly in a loose finger 4 formation. VMF 124's first operational missions began only days earlier. No one, not the Japanese, not the Marines, not even the pilots themselves, fully understands what this new machine is capable of. But today, something will change. Harriman feels it. Below, the waters begin to brighten into turquoise fields streaked with shadows of clouds racing across the surface. The morning stillness is broken only by his engine's steady rumble. Then, in his headset, "Red lead, this is Blue 2. Contacts, 11 o'clock high. Looks like zeros. 6, maybe 7. Harriman's eyes snap upward. Small specks, moving fast, closing faster. He does not tense, he focuses. He lowers the nose slightly to gain speed. The Corsair responds instantly, diving with predatory intent. The Japanese formation is elegant, precise lines of Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, sunlight glinting off their pale fuselages. Their flight leader, an ace named Watanabe Kojiro, with 15 confirmed kills, glances downward with mild curiosity. Intelligence briefings had mentioned a new American fighter with odd-shaped wings and poor maneuvering. Something to be mocked, not feared. Watanabe gives a short, dismissive laugh inside his mask. These new Americans are always trying something strange. New engines, new wings, new tricks. None of it matters. Skill matters. Instinct matters. And the Zero, light as a dragonfly and razor-sharp in the hands of an experienced pilot, has ruled the Pacific for 2 years. He tilts his aircraft into a shallow descent, preparing to toy with the incoming enemy. But then his breath catches. The Americans are not climbing. They are diving. And they are diving fast. Far too fast. Harriman pushes the stick forward firmly. The Corsair folds into the dive with startling stability. The Japanese pilots expect the American fighters to pull up early, like wildcats always do, bleeding airspeed in fear of ripping their wings. But the Corsair's gull-wing frame holds together even as the altimeter unwinds like a spinning coin. Watanabe's eyes widen. That
should not be possible. The distance between the formations collapses. Harriman speaks calmly. "Stay tight. First pass only. Do not turn with them." He squeezes the trigger. The Corsair's 6.50 caliber Browning machine guns erupt in a blinding blaze. Tracers streak through the sky. 1-0 disintegrates instantly, debris spinning in a halo of burning fuel. Harriman overshoots at tremendous speed, the Corsair rocketing past the Japanese formation. Instead of climbing, he rolls inverted, using the altitude he saved to reposition. The Japanese pilots attempt to follow, but their aircraft bleed energy in the climb. Watanabe curses. This American fighter is not behaving like anything he expected. It dives faster, accelerates harder, and retains energy in a way no Allied machine ever has. He tries to pull his formation into a defensive spiral, but it is already too late. The Corsairs come around for a second pass, and this time the Americans are ready. Each pilot driving his machine through the air with confidence born not of experience, but of instinct. The gull wings, once mocked, cut cleanly through the morning sky like sweeping blades. Harriman locks on to Watanabe's tail. The Zero tries to twist away. It cannot. A burst. A flash. The Pacific receives another burning shape. And in that moment, without ceremony, without warning, the myth of Zero invincibility begins to fracture.
February 15, 1943, early morning. Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The air on the ground feels heavier than the sky ever did. Diesel fumes mix with the scent of scorched rubber and hot metal as ground crews swarm around the returning Corsairs of VMF 124. The fighters taxi in, engines sputtering down from the deafening roar that carried them through yesterday's battle. Lieutenant Harriman rolls to a halt near a line of revetments carved out of crushed coral. He opens the canopy, letting the humid island air surge inside. It is hot, damp, alive. He can taste salt on his lips. A mechanic climbs onto the wing, his eyes widening as he runs a hand across the bullet puncture near the root. "You brought her back in one piece," the man mutters. "Mostly." Harriman steps down, boots hitting the ground with a dull thud. His legs shake just slightly, the leftover adrenaline, the echo of violence. But the atmosphere around the squadron is electric. Pilots gather near the revetment line, talking in hushed but excited tones. The numbers from yesterday begin circulating, half whispers turning into certain truth. 12 Zeros destroyed. No Corsairs lost. The island rumor mill works faster than any radio. By noon, every Marine, CB, and Navy rating on Guadalcanal has heard that the new fighter, the odd one, the one nobody trusted, just chewed through veteran Japanese pilots and came back hungry for more. But the real shock is happening hundreds of miles away. Rabaul Air Base, New Britain. Same day, early afternoon. The air plumes with black exhaust as Captain Tanaka Hideshio's remaining pilots limp home. 4 aircraft land. Only 4. Japanese ground crews rush toward the battered Zeros, expecting engine trouble or fuel starvation. What they find instead is far worse. Bullet scars across wings, fuselages shredded, pilots pale and shaken. One of Tanaka's wingmen climbs out of his cockpit and collapses to his knees, gripping the dirt in trembling hands. "How many?" the squadron operations officer demands. The young pilot looks up, eyes hollow. "Too many. They move like demons." "What aircraft?" "Blue, dark blue, gull wings, fast,
faster than anything. Another pilot steps forward, still gasping. It dives like a falling star. You cannot outrun it. You cannot outclimb it. The operations officer frowns. The new American fighter? Silence. A mechanic stands nearby, arms folded, listening. He mutters under his breath, "The bent-winged plane." The officer shakes his head. Intelligence had intercepted reports about a strange American prototype, but dismissed them as exaggeration, propaganda, another heavy, clumsy aircraft that the Zero could outmaneuver at will. But the men standing in front of him are not exaggerating. They are terrified. One whispers, "It hunted us." Rabaul's command staff convenes an emergency meeting. Charts are laid out, performance data recalculated, intercepted transmissions re-examined. For the first time in the war, Japanese analysts see performance curves rising above the Zero's once untouchable lines. Speed, Corsair wins. Dive, Corsair wins by a wide margin. Climb, Corsair wins above mid-altitudes. Survivability, Corsair wins decisively. Firepower, not even a comparison. Only turn radius belongs to the Zero, and even that advantage now seems fragile, something that only matters if the Corsair pilot willingly enters a turning fight. And yesterday proved they do not. A Japanese intelligence officer, Commander Kubo Senji, speaks the thought no one wants to admit. If the Americans master this aircraft, they will take the sky. Silence grips the room. Back on Guadalcanal, Harriman sits on an overturned supply crate with a canteen in his hands. Around him, VMF 124 debriefs the engagement, mapping out every turn, every dive, every kill. Not with bravado, not with boasting, with realization. Captain Ellery leans over a crude coral-dusted table and taps a pencil against a diagram of the fight. "It's not that the Corsair is better, it's that it fights differently," he says slowly. "We don't play by Zero rules anymore." Harriman nods. The American mindset, preserve energy, maintain altitude, control the engagement, is merging perfectly with the Corsair's design. The aircraft's weaknesses are real, but its strengths outweigh them in a way no one anticipated on the ground. Certainly not the Japanese, who believed maneuverability alone was enough to win any fight. A young pilot, Second Lieutenant Reeves, asks quietly, "They'll come back stronger, right?" "Oh, absolutely," Ellery answers. "They'll adapt. They'll test us again." Harriman takes a slow drink of water, gaze drifting toward the shimmering horizon. "And when they do," he says, "we'll show them yesterday wasn't luck." Because something has shifted in the Pacific, not just in the air, but in the balance of fear. The Corsair is no longer mocked. It is whispered about, calculated against, feared. And the sky, once dominated by the elegant dance of the Zero, now trembles beneath the thunder of bent wings. February 20th, 1943, Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The dense tropical air vibrates beneath the rising heat as a dozen blue-gray Corsairs line up along the runway. Their engines idle at a low rumble, each one sounding like a chained creature waiting to be turned loose. Ground crews step back, helmets pressed against the thunder. Inside the cockpit of his freshly repaired fighter, Lieutenant Harriman tightens his harness. Today is not routine patrol duty. Today is a deliberate test, a trial by fire to determine whether VMF 124 can turn a promising debut into sustainable dominance. Yesterday's victory shattered Japanese confidence, but single victories do not win air wars. Mastery does. And the Corsair is still a beast that demands respect. Taxiing beside him, Captain Ellery gives a thumbs up, his silhouette framed by the rising sun. Harriman returns the gesture. Their squadron has spent the last 5 days reworking tactics, refining energy management, and practicing vertical fighting maneuvers, new strategies crafted specifically for this strange aircraft that refuses to fight like any other. Even the flight instructors are learning. As the formation lifts off, wheels folding into the gull mootings, Harriman feels the familiar surge of torque pulling the aircraft left. He counters with ease. 5 days ago, that torque had scared half the squadron. Today, it is simply part of the Corsair's personality. They climb toward 18,000 feet, the sky turning from pale blue into a deeper, colder shade. The air thins, the engine drinks greedily. Below, the Solomon Islands stretch across the Pacific like dark jewels set into shifting turquoise. Clouds drift lazily between the peaks, hiding villages, rivers, and the scars of battle. Then, a voice crackles through the radio. Red lead, this is Falcon Control. Reports just in. Multiple enemy contacts inbound from the northwest. Estimate 9 to 10 aircraft. Harriman banks the formation into a slow, steady turn. Ellery's voice follows. Here we go again. But Harriman senses something different in the squadron today. No tension, no hesitation. The Corsair has stopped being a mystery. It is becoming an extension of their instincts. They level off at 19,000 feet, sun glinting off their canopies. The Japanese pilots climbing from bases far to the north will appear any moment now. And then, dots. Small specks shimmering against the horizon, 10 of them in a loose V formation, the enemy. But these are not the reckless and confident aviators who dove into battle last week. Their formation is tighter, their climb is cautious, their approach is measured. They have learned, and that makes them dangerous. Harriman steadies himself. Red flight, keep altitude. Blue flight, break wide. We'll force them vertical. Captain Ellery acknowledges. Copy. Let's see if they studied the right lessons. The two groups separate, creating a layered trap, contrails carving pale streaks into the morning sky. The Japanese formation reacts, splitting into two groups of 5. Their leader's voice crackles across his own radio net. Stay together, do not chase, let them waste energy. A sound strategy against any American fighter, except this one. Harriman rolls the Corsair onto its back and begins a controlled dive. The R-2800 growls, the wind hammers the canopy, the altimeter unwinds, the gull wings cut through the air like blades. The Japanese attempt to break formation. Too late. Harriman's first pass slices through them with terrifying momentum. No turning, no hesitation, just raw speed. He fires a short burst, forcing 2 Zeros to scatter. Blue flight arrives from the flank, angling up sharply. The Japanese snap roll to avoid being trapped, but the Corsairs adjust instantly, exploiting the vertical timeline they've practiced relentlessly. The sky becomes a 3-layered engagement. High altitude, red flight diving. Mid-level, Japanese formation breaking apart. Low level, blue flight rising to meet them. A Zero pulls into a steep climb, trying to shake a Corsair. Harriman drops behind it almost effortlessly. The contrast is stark. The Zero straining, wobbling at the edge of its performance envelope. The Corsair still rising confidently, engine roaring like a storm. He fires. The Zero tumbles downward in pieces.
January 1944. South Pacific. The skies above Bougainville shimmer in the late afternoon heat, the sea below turning copper as the sun drops toward the horizon. The Marine Corsair squadrons, VMF 214, VMF 215, and VMF 221, launch in staggered waves, their engines echoing across the island like rolling thunder. Captain James Grinder Talmadge lifts off with a hard right bank, climbing rapidly until the beaches shrink beneath him. The F4U feels alive now, no longer the troublesome machine the Navy doubted, no longer the relayed reject. It is climbing with the authority of a heavyweight predator. And in the distance, just forming on the horizon, are the dark specks every Corsair pilot has learned to study with unwavering focus. Incoming Japanese fighters. A mixed force today, A6M50s, K61 Tonys from Rabaul, even a handful of older K43 Oscars pushing their airframes to the limit just to reach combat altitude in time. Devil dogs, tighten up, they're coming in high, Talmadge says. The squadron stacks into a climbing spiral, each Corsair taking its place in the formation with calm precision. The air is still. Engines hum, and then the Japanese flight dives. Sunlight flashes off canopies, trails slice through the sky. Talmadge pushes the throttle forward, the great prop biting into the air, the Corsair surging upward with a howl. He rolls left, then snaps right,
An impossible maneuver for most fighters at this speed and angle, but the F4U holds together, defying the assumptions of every enemy pilot who has only heard rumors about the bent-wing monster. A Japanese ace, Lieutenant Osamu Kaito, spots Talmadge from above. Kaito has survived Guadalcanal, the Solomons, and countless ambushes. He has heard Marines brag that their Corsair can outclimb anything. He has heard intelligence reports claiming its 6.5 caliber guns tear aircraft apart in seconds. He does not believe it. He angles down, Zero trembling as he pushes its delicate frame past its comfortable limits. Its wings buffet, its controls stiffen, but he commits, determined to slash through the American formation. Talmadge sees him. You would see it too, just a flicker at first, a glint of metal half hidden behind the sun, and then the unmistakable outline of an A6M diving in with predatory intent. Talmadge calmly rolls inverted. Kaito expects fear, or at least hesitation, but the Corsair simply rotates and drops into a steep dive, no structural groan, no stall, no wobble. Impossible, Kaito thinks. He tries to follow, and instantly regrets it. The Zero cannot keep up. Its dive limit is dangerously low, its control surfaces stiffen at high speed, and its airframe begins to shake with a warning that every veteran pilot knows all too well. Talmadge pulls out effortlessly, loops upward, and cuts across the sun. Kaito loses him. The first burst of .5 caliber fire hits before Kaito even knows Talmadge is behind him. Tracers rip through the Zero's fuselage, punching inward and erupting outward in a shower of shattered metal. Kaito jerks the stick, but the Zero is bleeding energy, its nimbleness betrayed by its fragility. Another burst. The canopy spiders, fuel sprays. Flame catches instantly. Talmadge pulls up as the Zero spirals down, a comet trailing fire into the sea. "Splash one," he says simply. Around him, the sky becomes a storm of maneuvering fighters, contrails twisting like ropes, machine gun tracers reaching across the air in sharp, bright lines. The Corsairs dive, climb, roll, and counter-roll with a confidence no American fighter had shown in this theater just a year earlier. Japanese pilots who once mocked the bent-wing plane now watch it climb vertically past them, something their lightweight Zeros can never do. They see it dive without fear of losing a wing. They witness it break out of a turn with raw force that shoves it instantly onto their tails. Within minutes, 3 more Zeros fall. Then 2 Tonys. And the last Oscar tries to flee, but a Corsair from VMF 215 simply climbs, flips over, and drops behind it as if gravity itself favors the American aircraft. The engagement is over almost as quickly as it began. 7 Japanese fighters destroyed. Not a single Corsair lost. Talmadge circles back toward Bougainville, his engine humming steadily, the sun now low enough that it paints the entire horizon a molten gold. He checks his ammunition load, barely half expended. "Base, Devil Dog 1 returning, enemy flight neutralized," he radios. The reply carries something he has heard more and more often in recent months. "Copy, Devil Dog 1, outstanding work." As the Corsairs begin their descent, the kill ratio reports are already forming. It will soon become official. In certain Pacific theaters, the F4U Corsair is now achieving more than an 11-to-1 kill ratio. A statistic that will ripple across Imperial Japanese Navy headquarters like a shockwave. And in the months ahead, that number will only grow. February 1944, Rabaul Air Headquarters. What was once the nerve center of Japanese air power in the South Pacific now feels like a wounded fortress. The corridors are quieter, the maps on the walls show more red pins than blue, and the daily combat reports, once filled with confident language and victory claims, have taken a darker tone. Rear Admiral Tomoji Koyanagi stands over a table layered with dispatches from the front. His officers wait in rigid silence as he reads the most recent entry, Yet another account from a decimated squadron. 7 Zeros dispatched from Tobera airfield. None returned. Witnesses on the ground describe a brief engagement with American fighters. Those American fighters were Corsairs. Koyanagi lowers the paper slowly. The officers do not speak, not yet. They have all heard the rumors, the bent-wing aircraft, the one many pilots laughed at when grainy reconnaissance photos first appeared months earlier. A machine they dismissed as a clumsy brute that would fold under stress, outmaneuvered and outclassed by the elegant A6M0. But now, the reports say something different. They say it climbs faster. They say it dives harder. They say its guns shred aircraft in seconds. And worst of all, they say it survives hits that would atomize a Zero. Koyanagi finally looks up. "Summon Lieutenant Commander Masaaki Shimura," he orders. Minutes later, Shimura steps into the room, his uniform immaculate despite the fatigue in his eyes. He is one of the few surviving veteran instructors, one of the last pilots who truly understands the art of aerial combat from years of experience rather than desperate improvisation. "Kneel," Koyanagi says softly, and Shimura kneels before the map. "I have read every combat report from the last 6 months. You have trained the best of our pilots. I ask you now, what do they fear?" Shimura hesitates. Koyanagi's voice sharpens. "Speak." Shimura bows his head. "They fear the new American fighter, the one with the inverted wings, the one they call the Corsair." The room tightens. "Why?" Koyanagi asks. Shimura exhales slowly, as if admitting a truth he hoped would never be spoken aloud. "Because it erases our advantages. Our Zero is agile, yes, but fragile. The Corsair turns nearly as well at high speed, climbs far better, and dives in ways the Zero cannot follow." He pauses. "And its guns kill with one pass." Koyanagi closes his eyes. His officers remain frozen, as if any movement might crack the thin shell of discipline holding the room together. "Then, what do you recommend?" the Admiral asks. Shimura points to Bougainville and the surrounding islands. "Stop underestimating it." The statement hangs in the air like a breaking wave. "Treat it as our greatest threat," Shimura continues. "Train our pilots never to chase it in a dive, never to follow it vertically, never to allow it to dictate the merge, and above all, teach them to escape, not defeat it, if they fall into its sightline." Koyanagi's gaze drifts back to the paper on the table, the report of the 7 Zeros lost in minutes. He imagines the pilots who once mocked the ungainly wings, now staring up at an F4U diving toward them like a hawk with steel feathers. He imagines the shock and the fear. "Very well," the Admiral says quietly. "Issue new doctrine, immediate." Shimura bows deeply. "I will begin at once." But both men know, even as the orders are spoken, that doctrine alone will not change what is happening in the skies. The Japanese air arm is losing pilots.
April 1944. Over Truk Lagoon. The largest Japanese naval stronghold in the Central Pacific lies quiet beneath the morning haze. Too quiet for what once was the Gibraltar of the Pacific, a fortress swarming with aircraft, destroyers, and submarines. Today, the silence is broken only by the distant thump of anti-aircraft guns firing at shadows. Far above the lagoon, VMF 224 escorts an American bombing formation, their Corsairs cruising in disciplined lines. From this height, almost 24,000 feet, you can see the lagoon's full circle, the harbors, the coral reefs, the once mighty airfields now pitted by craters. Captain Warren Kincaid adjusts his oxygen mask and scans the horizon. He knows Truk is wounded. He also knows wounded animals can still bite. "Keep sharp," he radios to his flight. "They still have teeth down there." But as the sun rises, the truth becomes clear.
The Japanese response is scattered, disorganized, thin. Only a few fighters claw their way up. Then, the radar warning hits. Bandits inbound from the northwest, multiple groups, altitude 20,000 and climbing. Kincaid tightens his harness. Devils, push up 3,000, let them reach us. The Corsairs climb into a cold band of air where the engines strain for power and contrails peel behind them. As they ascend, small shapes materialize from the northwest. Zeros, nearly 20 of them, their silhouettes shimmering like insects in the heat haze. Something is different today. They don't charge. They don't dive. They form a defensive arc and approach with a caution Kincaid has never seen in a Japanese squadron. He realizes immediately, this is a new tactic, a response to the kill ratios that have torn through their ranks, a sign that the mockery is gone, replaced by discipline, by fear. Kincaid steadies his breathing. Do not break formation, he orders. The Zeros continue to climb, but they are struggling. Their engines wheeze at this altitude. Their pilots fight stiff controls. The Corsairs, by contrast, cut through the thin air with predatory ease. At 22,000 feet, the lines finally intersect. Kincaid sees the Japanese flight leader, a decorated ace, Lieutenant Hiroshi Tateyama, push ahead slightly, signaling his pilots. They intend to force a turning fight, the Zeros' only remaining advantage. Not today, Kincaid mutters. He pushes the throttle forward and his Corsair surges ahead, refusing the turning trap. Instead, he cuts across the formation with a high side slice, forcing Tateyama to react. The Japanese leader banks sharply, but the Zero bleeds speed instantly. Kincaid snaps up and over. Gravity pulls the F4U down like a hammer. His guns thunder. The tracers walk across the Zero's fuselage, punching through thin aluminum, shredding the cockpit. Tateyama's aircraft bursts into flame before spinning violently downward, smoke billowing behind it. The Japanese formation wavers. Just for a heartbeat. But that heartbeat is enough. The Corsairs dive in from above in synchronized pairs, attacking with practiced strikes, never turning, never allowing the Zeros to draw them into a horizontal fight. They hit vertically, dive through, climb back up, and strike again. A Zero tries to climb after one of the F4Us. It stalls. The Corsair loops around and disintegrates it with a 2-second burst. Two more Zeros choose to flee, diving toward cloud cover. But the Corsairs drop after them with terrifying control, their wings screaming through the air as they overtake the fleeing aircraft with ease. Another kill, another plume of smoke. Within 4 minutes, the sky becomes a graveyard of spiraling aircraft trails. The Japanese formation is shattered. Those who survive flee into the haze, not attempting re-engagement. Kincaid banks back toward the bomber formation, breathing hard. He asks, status. All Corsairs accounted for. The radio crackles again as another pilot adds, multiple splashes, no damage on our side. Kincaid glances down at Truk Lagoon below. The once feared stronghold now looks small, diminished, a giant with broken arrows. And he thinks of all the early war reports where Japanese pilots mocked American fighters, where Zeros were said to dance circles around anything painted in blue, where the Corsair was dismissed before it even arrived. But that era is finished. The Pacific battlefield is different now. The hunters have become the hunted, and the bent-wing fighter that once drew laughter now brings silence, a heavy, fearful silence. April 1945, over Okinawa. The sky is a boiling mass of smoke, cloud, and drifting ash. Below it, the largest amphibious assault of the Pacific War churns forward, hundreds of ships firing, landing craft weaving between coral reefs, the thunder of naval artillery shaking the sea itself. And above it all, the Corsairs rule the sky. VMF-323, the Death Rattlers, launches from Kadena Airfield in rapid succession, their blue fuselages streaked with dust and oil from days of non-stop operations. Lieutenant Tom Rayburn pulls his F4U into a hard climb, joining his wingman as they rise through a thin cloud layer into a world of smoke pillars and distant explosions. Rayburn has been flying since the Marshall Islands. He has faced Zeros, Tonys, Oscars. But today, he faces something far more dangerous: kamikazes. "Eyes up," he radios. "Command reports multiple inbound groups, low altitude, fast movers." The American fleet below strains every gun mount skyward, searching for the telltale glint of diving aircraft. Radar screens buzz with frantic activity. Then, the warning comes. "Raid incoming from the northwest, estimated 30+ bogeys." Rayburn flips his safety off. His Corsair feels heavy with ammunition. 6.5 caliber guns fully loaded, extra fuel in the drop tank slung beneath the fuselage. A hunter, built for endurance, for punishment, for dominance. But today, the enemy will not run. They will die trying to kill. Rayburn scans the horizon. He sees them. A loose, ragged formation, Zeros, Oscars, and several heavily loaded K-84 Hayates. Some are fitted with bombs, others with no landing gear. All are flying low and fast, skimming the waves toward the U.S. fleet. "Death Rattlers, dive! Target the lead elements!" Rayburn knows is over, the Corsair plunging like a falling anvil. The airframe trembles as speed surges past 350 knots. His guns blaze, tearing into the lead aircraft, a Zero carrying a 500-pound bomb. The explosion blossoms into a fireball, shockwaves rattling his cockpit. Another kamikaze breaks left. Rayburn follows. You can almost feel the weight of the Corsair pushing into its dive, the wind screaming across its wings, the engine roaring like a furious animal. The Japanese pilot sees him coming and jinks desperately, but the F4U is too fast, too stable, too unforgiving. Rayburn fires. The Zero's wing ruptures. The bomb tears free and drops harmlessly into the sea. The aircraft cartwheels into the waves. Two more slip past, aiming directly for a destroyer below. Rayburn's wingman, Lieutenant Charlie Gator Mills, dives after one of them, pushing his Corsair so hard the wings groan under the strain. He fires at near point-blank range. The kamikaze turns into a streak of black smoke before crashing short of the target. But one aircraft, a K-84, stays alive. It weaves between bursts of flak, climbing suddenly and rolling into a steep dive, a perfect attack run. Its pilot, a veteran, disciplined, committed, locks on to the silhouette of an American radar picket destroyer. Rayburn sees it. He throws his Corsair into full power climb, the engine howling as he pulls into a near vertical ascent. His vision narrows, his muscles strain against gravity. The world becomes a blur of smoke and sunlight. And then, he reaches the K-84's blind spot. He rolls inverted, stares down through his canopy, and fires. The tracers rip through the Hayate's spine, cutting it cleanly in half. The forward fuselage bursts into flame and spirals away. The rear section falls backward, tumbling like debris. Rayburn pulls up sharply, his heart pounding. Below, the destroyer continues firing, still alive. Good kill," Mills shouts over the radio. More Corsairs join the fight, diving from altitude like blue thunderbolts.
April 1945, south of Okinawa. The wind over the Pacific is warm, carrying the smell of fuel and salt into the cockpit of Lieutenant Howard Blackjack Reeves's F4U Corsair. Below him stretches the largest amphibious armada ever assembled in the Pacific War. Tens of thousands of soldiers and Marines pushing toward the bloodiest island battle of the conflict. Above him, the sky is deceptively calm. Thin clouds, pale sunlight, and a horizon that feels endless. But he knows what is coming,
and so do the men on the carriers below. By now, Japanese pilots have stopped mocking the Corsair's silhouette. The inverted gull wings no longer look strange. They look terrifying. Every pilot who survives a brush with the whistling death reports the same thing. It climbs too fast, dives too hard, turns tighter than it should, and hits like a sledgehammer. Reeves hears the warning crackle through his headset. "Raid incoming! Bearing 045! Multiple bogeys! Fast!" His heartbeat steadies. He pushes the throttle forward. The Corsair roars like an animal unleashed. 11,000 feet above the American fleet, dozens of Japanese aircraft appear. Some older Zeros, some fast Ki-84 Hayates, and, mixed among them, a handful of kamikaze attackers diving low. Reeves watches sunlight flash off their canopies. His squadron, VMF 312, fans out in a wide arc, forming a net of blue-gray wings. Japanese pilots once joked that the Corsair looked like a bird that crashed before takeoff. Today, they attack with grim silence. The enemy formation breaks. Fighters climb toward the Corsairs. Bombers and suicide planes streak downward toward the ships, engines screaming. Reeves banks hard left, drops into a shallow dive, and lines up the first Zero he sees. The enemy pilot tries to climb, but he is misjudged. The Corsair accelerates like a falling star. Reeves squeezes the trigger. 6.5 caliber guns ignite, and the Zero dissolves into a cloud of fragments and fire. He climbs again, blood drawn back into his chest by the G-forces, and scans. Below him, a kamikaze streaks toward the destroyer USS Hazelwood. Reeves rolls inverted and plunges. The Corsair howls. Air pressure slams against the canopy. He can feel the frame shudder as the wings slice through the dive. The kamikaze grows larger in his sights, white headband fluttering in the open cockpit, engine pushing to its last ounce of power. He fires. The first bursts miss. The second rip through the left wing root. Then, the third burst hits home. Fuel, metal, and fire erupt outward. The Japanese plane breaks apart, crashing into the ocean in a boiling plume. Reeves pulls up, breathing hard. 3 more bogeys dive past him. His wingman screams through the radio, "2 on my tail!" And the crackle of panic tells him everything he needs to know. Reeves banks toward the voice. 2 Hayates chase his wingman in a spiraling dive, their 20mm cannons flashing. He closes distance fast. The first Hayate pilot sees him and breaks away, but the second is locked in. Reeves fires a long burst. .5 caliber tracers walk across the fuselage, shredding fabric, punching holes in metal. The Hayate bursts into flame, rolls over, and tumbles into the sea. His wingman levels out, shaken, but alive. But the raid is not over. More kamikaze break through the defensive screen. On the horizon, columns of smoke rise from ships under attack. Corsair after Corsair dives to intercept, the sky becoming a vortex of contrails, explosions, and burning aircraft. Reeves climbs for altitude, scanning, searching. Then he sees it. A lone Zero, fast, low, committed, heading straight toward the USS New Mexico. Too far for a clean intercept, too low for an angle advantage. And yet, he pushes the throttle beyond military power. The engine screams. The plane vibrates, strained to its limits. Slowly, inch by inch, he closes the gap. The Zero pilot glances back. For a brief second, their eyes meet across 100 yards of open air. There is no mockery in the Japanese pilot's face, only acceptance. Reeves fires. The Zero disintegrates just seconds before impact, crashing into the waves in a violent spray. The USS New Mexico remains untouched. Reeves pulls out of the dive, shaking, breath raw in his throat. He looks down at the fleet below, thousands of lives depending on each interception. The Corsair circles overhead, engine humming, wings gleaming in the sun. No one mocks the gull wings now. In the final months of the Pacific War, Japanese pilots come to fear what the silhouette means: speed, power, and a pilot who will not let them through. The Corsair has become what its designers always believed it could be, a sky-clearing predator, the dominant fighter of the Pacific. May 1945, east of Okinawa. Dawn emerges through a curtain of low clouds, staining the sky with pale streaks of orange. The sea below is restless, rolling under the weight of a war that has dragged across half the world. On the deck of the USS Bunker Hill, crewmen move with quiet urgency. Refueling lines, ammunition belts, last-minute checks. It still smells of burned aviation fuel from the kamikaze strike that nearly took her out of the fight earlier in the campaign. But today, her flight deck is alive again. Rows of F4U Corsairs sit poised, steel muscles tense, engines rumbling, propellers cutting the morning air into a rhythmic thunder. Pilots climb ladders and settle into their cockpits with practiced precision. Among them is Captain Daniel Hawkeye Mercer, a VF-84, a veteran of the Marshall Islands, the Marianas, and now Okinawa. He knows this will be one of their last major sorties. He also knows the Japanese homeland is preparing its final defense. The call comes over the deck speakers. Launch! 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 Mercer pushes the throttle forward. The Corsair leaps from the deck, dives for a second, then claws into the air with a surge of power that presses him into his seat. Behind him, more fighters rise until the entire squadron forms a layered escort over the fleet. Their target is a cluster of airfields still launching last-ditch strikes toward the American invasion force. With each day, the kamikaze attacks become more desperate and more deadly. Every fighter destroyed on the ground means one less pilot diving toward the fleet. Mercer levels off at 12,000 feet, the Corsair's wings gleaming like curved blades in the rising sun. Ahead, columns of smoke rise from Okinawa's south ridge. Navy ships pound Japanese positions with naval gunfire. The flash is visible even at altitude. The island looks like it is on fire. His wingman, Ensign Robert Tin Man Hale, breaks the silence. Multiple contacts, 11 o'clock high. Mercer shifts his gaze. Specks, growing larger. Zeros, Ki-84 Hayates, older Ki-43 Oscars, anything that can still fly. A formation of more than a dozen fighters moving directly toward the fleet. Mercer feels a familiar tension tighten his chest. Angels 11, we intercept now. Corsairs dive as one. The Japanese formation breaks apart instantly. They know the reputation of the F4U. They know what those wings can do in a dive. They scatter, trying to lure the Corsairs into turning fights, hoping to use agility as their shield. But the days when this tactic worked are long gone. Mercer pulls into a climbing spiral, using the Corsair's immense engine torque to swing the nose inside a Ki-43's turning circle. The Japanese pilot reacts too late. Mercer's guns erupt in a violent burst, and the Oscar bursts into flame, wings snapping off as it spirals downward. Tin Man dives on 2 Zeros, chasing another American fighter. His tracers rake across one of them, shattering its canopy. The second Zero peels away, climbing for the sun. Mercer follows. The Zero climbs well, but not well enough. The Corsair closes rapidly, engine roaring like thunder. At 15,000 feet, the Japanese pilot stalls out, wings wobbling. Mercer fires a perfectly timed burst. The Zero shudders, nose dips, and it falls away into a fatal spin. He scans. Dozens of contrails twist across the sky, arcing, crossing, spiraling trails that mark life and death duels. Below him, a kamikaze breaks from the melee at full throttle, diving for the destroyer USS Drexler. Corsairs try to close, but they are seconds too slow. The plane hits. A fireball erupts from the ship's midsection. Smoke pours upward, black and violent, as the Drexler lists hard to port. Mercer watches in tight, agonized silence. They saved many. They could not save all. He forces his focus back to the fight. 3 more Japanese planes make a final charge toward the fleet, low, fast, weaving through anti-aircraft bursts. Corsairs scream downward to intercept them. One by one, they fall under the torrent of .5 caliber fire, crashing into the sea in violent plumes. When the last enemy aircraft plunges beneath the waves, the radio is filled with ragged breathing, clipped confirmations, and the trembling relief of men who have survived another hour. The sky.
July 1945, Ulithi Atoll. The lagoon is calm, so calm it looks like polished glass. Carrier Task Force 38 rests at anchor, its decks quiet, its crews catching a rare breath before the next operation against the Japanese mainland. The air is heavy with humidity, the scent of diesel fuel drifting lazily across the water. On the deck of the USS Bennington, Captain Mercer stands beside his Corsair, hands resting on the cool metal of the fuselage. The gull-wing fighter glints in the sunlight, its deep navy paint faded by salt, wind, and months of unforgiving combat. It is scarred, bullet holes patched, panels replaced, soot marks still clinging to the exhaust stacks. But it has never flown better. Around him, ground crews work in a measured rhythm, checking guns, tuning engines, tightening bolts. The urgency of Okinawa has eased, but no one here believes the war is close to ending. Rumors circulate about the Japanese homeland, aircraft hidden in mountain caves, reserves of kamikaze pilots waiting for the final American push, new secret weapons. If the invasion of Japan proceeds, the Corsair will lead the charge. Morning, Captain. Tinran approaches, carrying 2 cups of strong, bitter Navy coffee. He hands one to Mercer and leans against the Corsair's landing gear. You think they've got anything left up there? Mercer takes a long sip before answering. Maybe scraps, maybe tricks, but fighters? Not enough to matter. He nods toward the Corsairs lined up along the deck. Not against these. Tin Man smiles weakly, but the weight in his eyes betrays exhaustion. Months of relentless fighting, friends lost, narrow escapes, and the knowledge that the endgame may be even bloodier than everything before it. They stand in silence as mechanics run the Corsair's engine for a test cycle. The massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 comes alive with a deep, throaty growl that rolls across the deck like distant thunder. The sound vibrates through their boots. Mercer turns to watch it. This machine that had once been mocked as unmanageable, unstable, impossible to master. He remembers the first time he saw one. An aircraft no one quite trusted. Too big, too powerful, too strange-looking. Pilots said it would never amount to anything, that it was too much airplane for any man to handle. But now? Now it has one of the highest kill ratios in aviation history. Now every pilot in the Pacific recognizes its silhouette instantly. Now even Japanese aces, men who flew since China, who survived Midway, who downed dozens of opponents, pray they never see those wings again. The Corsair has earned its place. Late afternoon sunlight spreads across the atoll. Corsairs from other squadrons taxi along the deck, preparing for a patrol sweep. Not because they expect resistance, but because every inch of sky must remain secure. They launch in pairs, blue arrows rising off the deck and climbing toward the horizon. Mercer watches each takeoff with a sense of pride he never felt at the war's beginning. These pilots fly confidently, not arrogantly, but with the calm awareness that they dominate the skies now. The Corsair is not just a weapon, it is a guardian. He heads toward the briefing room for their afternoon assignment. Inside, maps of Kyushu and Honshu cover the walls. Arrows mark potential invasion beaches. Pins mark suspected Japanese airfields. Intel reports suggest only a fraction of Japan's once mighty air force remains operational. But the men in the room know something deeper, that whatever Japan still has left, the Corsair will be there to meet it. A commander steps forward. Gentlemen, your task is simple. Maintain pressure, sweep the skies, keep our recon birds safe, no surprises. A few pilots chuckle. Since Okinawa, the Japanese skies have offered no surprises at all. Mercer returns to his plane at dusk. The Corsair sits alone in a pool of fading light, nose pointed toward the sea as if waiting for the next mission. He climbs into the cockpit and rests his hands on the control stick, feeling the familiar fit against his gloves. In the stillness, he imagines the final battles ahead. Japan's mountains, its crowded valleys, its fortified coasts. He imagines the Corsair diving, climbing, turning, striking. He imagines its roar echoing across the homeland as it once did across the Solomons, the Marshalls, the Marianas, and Okinawa. Then he imagines something else. A future where the war is over. A future where the Corsair is remembered not as an odd-looking prototype, but as the aircraft that broke the back of Japan's air arm, that protected the fleet in its darkest days, that seized control of the Pacific sky and never gave it back. He powers down the switches one by one. The engine falls silent, but the legacy of what the Corsair has done and what it still might do echoes in the quiet that follows. Tomorrow they fly again, and until the final shot of the Pacific War is fired, the F4U Corsair will remain the hunter of hunters. August 5th, 1945. Over the Philippine Sea. The sky is a pale, blinding blue, clean, cloudless, stretching unbroken from horizon to horizon. Below, the vast fleet of Task Force 38 cuts through gentle swells, carriers and battleships gliding forward with the slow certainty of giants preparing for the decisive blow of the war. Captain Mercer sits strapped into his cockpit, the canopy open as warm air drifts across the deck of the USS Bennington. His Corsair is armed, fueled, and gleaming, an apex predator waiting for the hunt. The squadron forms up beside him, engines idling, their exhaust shimmering in the heat. But something feels different today. For weeks, patrols have found nothing in the skies over Japan's approaches. No interceptors, no reconnaissance flights, no kamikazes rising from the sea lanes. The enemy's silence is louder than any gunfire. Yet command insists, one more sweep, one more flight to ensure the path ahead is clear. The launch officer signals. Mercer lowers his goggles and pushes the throttle forward. The Corsair leaps off the deck, nose dipping before the wings bite into the air and carry him upward. His squadron joins him in a climbing arc, 12 blue silhouettes rising against the empty sky. They level off at 15,000 feet, forming a loose combat spread. Eyes open, Mercer radios, though he knows it is mostly formality. If Japan still has fighters left, they are well hidden. The horizon remains empty. Below them, the waters of the Philippine Sea shine like molten glass, reflecting the Corsair's shadows as they sweep north. In the distance, faint gray shapes mark the first tendrils of the Japanese mainland, mountain peaks veiled in mist, coastlines jagged and foreboding. Hail breaks the silence. "Boss, you ever think it would get like this? All this sky and no one left to fight?" Mercer considers his answer carefully. This is what air dominance looks like, when the enemy stops challenging you. "But that's the strange part," Hale replies quietly. "They used to throw everything at us. Everything. Now, nothing." Mercer knows what he means. The Corsair has not just defeated Japanese fighters, it has erased them from the air. The loss of experienced pilots, the destruction of fuel reserves, the relentless pressure of American carriers, all of it has reduced the vaunted Japanese air arm to ghostly remnants. They fly on. Minutes turn into an hour. The sun climbs, turning the world into a harsh glare of light and shadow. The Corsairs weave through the warmth rising off the sea, their engines humming in perfect unison. Then a voice crackles through. "Contact, low, 3 o'clock. Mercer snaps his head right. And there it is. A solitary aircraft. Old, slow, barely maintaining altitude. A K-36, Ida,
A light reconnaissance plane, so outdated it had disappeared from frontline service years earlier. The fabric on its wings flutters, its engine sputters. It flies alone, as if lost in time. Hale whispers, "Boss, what do we do?" Mercer hesitates. Procedure is clear. Any enemy aircraft should be intercepted. The war is still on. The fleet still relies on them to maintain absolute air control. But as he watches the Ida wobble through the air, something else settles over him. A realization that this man, like so many before him, is simply a pilot obeying